Shades of Blue, and oh how happy you have made me. It's song number 32 this week of the WJCU survey. It's 3:46 in the Rock and Roll City. I'm Jumpin Joe Madigan, and that time has come today for me to lay that important announcement on you. Are you ready? Good, because I'm not. I gotta cue up the next record. Hold on a second. Alright, I just want to make sure it's all queued up. Alright, very good. It's ready now. Well, this fall, I'm going to celebrate 13 years on WJCU, and for a college DJ, that is an eternity. I never imagined that a show that I started in the early morning hours on a Sunday morning back in 2004 would still be on the air nearly 13 years later. And the response and the support from you has been and continues to be absolutely outstanding. And I want to thank you so very much for your support. You know, I often tell listeners on and off the air that I will continue to do this show as long as I can. Well, I've come to the point where it's getting hard for me to do this show each and every week. With my family and my non-radio career responsibilities growing, I realize that I have come to that proverbial fork in the road, and if you've ever met me in person, you know I'm a very nearsighted guy, so I decided to use the retro radio periscope so that I could see down each fork in that road, or each road in that fork, however you want to say it. Well, I'll tell you that the bridge was out on one of the roads, so I decided not to go down that path, so it was clear to me that I had to take the other road. So, all kidding aside, what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm going to continue to host Retro Radio, but on a part-time basis. I repeat, I'm going to continue to host Retro Radio, but on a part-time basis. So what does that mean? That means Retro Radio will have a second host. And that's good news. That's good news for you because that's going to ensure that Retro Radio will continue to be a live show each and every week. In addition, this DJ is going to feature more of the early 1960s as well, something this show has been lacking. Now, the second host of Retro Radio is someone you might know, for he hosts a show on an internet radio station right here in Cleveland. And this person has been with me in the studio for the last couple of weeks, seeing what I do, and he's slowly easing his way behind the board that controls all the jingles and the cards and the turntables and all that fun stuff. In fact, I'm going to see if he could turn on his microphone, because I'm going to introduce him to you right now. Can you... Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, hit that button. Don't be scared now.
Does it go like this, Joe?
It goes like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our new friend of Retro Radio, Ray King. Hi.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Hi, Ray. Can you hear yourself?
Barely. Oh, there we go. The meters are bouncing. I guess I'm on the air.
That is certainly a good thing here. That's one of the things you have to learn how to do is adjust your microphone levels and the headphone levels too. The headphones are important because if you can't hear yourself, it's just a lost cause.
Very true. Very true.
Well, Ray, you've actually been involved with radio going all the way back to when?
1960.
1960. Talking to that microphone. Don't be shy.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, you hear the voice? You hear your voice better now when you talk?
I hear myself much better.
There you go. Sometimes I got to stand back because I yell into the microphone.
That's because you're Jumpin Joe. I'm only Rockin' Ray King.
There you go. So you've actually been involved in radio going all the way back to 1960.
That is correct.
So you started your music collection and your survey collection going all the way back to 1960.
That is also correct. That's when I got into Top 40 radio. I learned how radio works from the inside. And I tell you, as you well know, once it's in your blood forever.
That's true. That's why I'm only going part-time. I'm not giving this show up. I don't think I could ever give this show up.
You need a transfusion.
I might need a blood transfusion. So it's thank you for doing this. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to have a lot of fun here. And as I mentioned, this show is going to feature more of the early 1960s. I know many of you have asked about it in the past, and I've had a legitimate excuse in the past because for the longest time you couldn't find any of the early radio surveys from the early 1960s. But as of recent, a lot of WHK tunedexes have appeared online going all the way back to 1960, 61, 62, 63. So the good news is you're going to get more of those WHK shows with Ray King.
Right.
Well, so you started in 1960 in radio, and then you did it in college for a little while.
I did it in college. I was actually on 3 closed-circuit AM stations at Ohio State back in the late 60s, early 70s, and even back then I was Ray King.
So you were playing this music when it was brand new?
Pretty much. In some cases, yes. But I also had an oldie show, the Ray King Oldie Show, on one of my Ohio State stations where I played 50s and 60s in 1970.
Wow.
Right.
That's pretty wild. An oldie show back in 1970.
Yeah, well, music goes back a long way, as you know, Joe, but I'm about twice your age, so I go back a few more years than you do.
Oh, I knew I forgot to mention something here.
There we go. I'm not young.
There's a cardinal rule here on this show that my age, and you didn't go that far, but my age shall not be revealed, because after all, I have Dick Clark disease. I can't age, so when people see me, they think I'm a teenager, but I'm really not a teenager. I mean, after all, I've been doing the show for nearly 13 years now, so you do the math.
So you began when you were 10.
Exactly. Exactly. I still feel like I'm 23, too.
So
That's
do I.
good. And you know what? With this music, and I'm sure the listeners of Retro Radio can certainly testify to this, but when you hear some of these songs that you haven't heard in quite some time, it's almost like it's a brand new song all over again.
In some ways, that's true. Right.
And so I have a lot of fun. I mean, I played the Syndicate of Sound Little Girl at 3:30, and it's one of my favorite songs to play on Retro Radio. And that song, I've been playing that record for 13 years, and that record never gets old for me. A lot of these songs never, ever get old, and I'm still making discoveries. 13 years after I started Retro Radio, I'm still making discoveries, and I'm sharing them with you each and every week on Retro Radio. And you're going to get another perspective here, as Ray King will now be the second host of Retro Radio. So if you're just tuning in, trying to figure out what the heck is going on here, I, Jumpin Joe Madigan, am going to be hosting Retro Radio. We'll continue to host Retro Radio, but on a part-time basis. So about 2 times a month I'll be here, and 2 times a month Ray King will be here, featuring not only the early 60s, but he'll still do the mid-60s as well, and even the early 70s.
That's correct. Right. Can't wait.
So it's still going to be your favorite Retro Radio show, but with another voice and another perspective here with you twice a month, and that would be Rockin' Ray King.
Joe, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and I'm very humbled.
All right. Well, I appreciate you you doing this, because without you, I would be in quite a bind. And by the way, the lovely Mrs. Madigan thanks you as well.
Oh, I met her last week. Amanda, you're welcome. You can have your husband back twice a month.
She'll be very, very grateful for that.
And your kids as well.
Yes, certainly.
Right.
And especially on a day like this, because I work weird hours, and it was one of those things, I probably spent a grand total of 10 minutes at home today, and so they're not going to see me until later on this evening. And so, as I mentioned, job responsibilities and family responsibilities has certainly led to this decision. But the good news is for you is Retro Radio will continue, and I'm happy to say that I will continue hosting twice a month. Ray King will be here with you twice a month as well, and it's going to bring a new dynamic to Retro Radio, and I hope you're excited about it. And as a matter of fact, we're going to get a little demo here of Ray King in the next hour, because in the next hour, Ray King and I are going to co-host Retro Radio together.
How about that?
And that's something we actually did on, I mentioned the online radio station,
right,
on a website that you started, WJCU1260online.com.
Right.
It's a tribute to WJCU1260 24/7. And I know when you saw my Facebook feed, the Retro Radio Facebook feed, you recognize some of the names, so there's certainly some crossover as well.
Absolutely.
So some of these guys are certainly going to know who you are. So
Absolutely.
Ray King joins Retro Radio as the second host of Retro Radio.
And thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
So do I.
Well, right now, it's time to get back to the music as we go back to 1966. It's 3:55. I'm feeling alive. How about you, friends? It's time for the Wixie Triple Play.
Wixie Radio with the triple play.